welcome to Holistic Health with Dr. Kate. Today I am with Dr. Jason Marshall, who is the director of the cleaning lab for the Toxics Use Reduction Institute out of UMass Lowell. The cleaning lab is one branch of the larger group of TURI, which is the abbreviation for toxics use. The cleaning lab tests the performance of industrial, janitorial, and household cleaning products to encourage companies, institutions, individuals, and product formulators to choose and develop safer substitutes. Thank you very much for coming to the show today.
My pleasure to be here.
It's great to have you. I think this topic is a really important topic considering how many chronic problems, particularly in health in my field, that we're seeing, and we wonder how much connection this has to here. So I have a lot of questions for you about that as well.
I hope I have some answers.
I'm sure you will. So we've got to chat a little bit beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
The cleaning lab is one part of TURI, which has a number of branches in
Correct.
it.
Yep. What else besides the cleaning lab? What TURI does is they do research and training for professionals that are out there trying to reduce the use of toxic chemicals. They have education and training. They have community research, community grants and stuff like that, which some of your people may be interested in doing. They can actually apply for a grant from us to actually do a project, say going into a school and do an assessment of the cleaning chemicals that they're using or the pesticides that they're using for their maintenance of their schools. We can help them find safer ways to reduce the use of those chemicals, do it more of a natural way or a less environmentally hazardous way to do it.
Well, I'm interested in that too because I know $65,000 TURI awarded to some of the local towns for.
Yep, they do that every year, and then at the end of the year in June they go to the State House and they are at the State House and do an event talking about their projects, getting awards and recognition by the state legislators and things like that. So it's a great experience. And like I said, I've been at TURI for 18 years, and they've given away a lot of money and a lot of projects. The nice thing is that all those projects that they go and they do, they're all available for people to learn and read about on the TURI website. So you can go to the community section and find out about all those projects that are there. And the person that runs the program, Joy O'Nash, is someone who feel free to send her an email and give her a call and say, hey, we're thinking about this, or can you find me more information about something? And, you know, if you think someone may have already done it somewhere else, it's just a matter of taking that and adopting it to your communities.
Yeah, it's incredible. Some of the things. The website is packed with information. I've been on it many times since we first connected, and I mean, I don't even think I've touched a fraction of it. There's so much of it.
I work there and I haven't touched a fraction of it.
Which is, there's so much we're still learning.
Yeah.
And there's so much to do, which is probably why that website is so packed. But here's some of the community grant programs with just the $65,000 that was just awarded recently, and how it divided up. They did. It went to towns and cities and organizations, which is what I put. They worked with retail businesses to establish the cancer-free new economy, which was looking at carcinogenic ingredients in different products. One group looked at safer cosmetic products. One looked at reducing household asthma triggers and different products that might be associated with that. One looked at reducing pesticide use and increasing organic land. So I know you're really involved in the cleaning laboratory aspect of it, but I wanted to make sure that our viewers know how much TURI is doing to really make a difference.
That's one of the things that I always get in trouble with. I always say TURI and everyone thinks, oh, it's the lab. I said, well, there is more to it than just the lab. But we do a lot with the communities, with the janitorial and household cleaning applications. And you mentioned the asthma triggers and stuff like that. So that's one of the things that we help people to identify is what products should you use or not use if you are trying to avoid those types of things. And you know, we've been doing it for a while, and we kind of think we know what we're talking about, so we'd like to help out other people as well. So
yeah, and it's the way to get what you're doing in the lab. I think I want to say it was on a CDC statistic, 1 in 9 children have asthma.
It's amazing how big that number is.
Isn't that incredible?
And a lot of them is because of the chemicals that they're using to clean, to try to make it safer.
Yeah.
That they think they're trying to clean and use these chemicals, and the one that, in addition to the students, is also you to be concerned about the people actually doing the cleaning, because the students are in the building, but the people who are doing the cleaning, they're this close to those chemicals day in, day out and using them. So we would do a lot of work with the custodial staffs to educate them as to what they're using and how they should be doing cleaning. And we always mention, if you're doing cleaning of a house or a bedroom or a school, open a window, let some fresh air come through to, if they are using the nastier chemicals. It can help alleviate the concentrations in the room by having a flow of air, like working and cleaning things out.
That's such a good point, because I think about it, and I know you talk about it, where your TURI talks about it on their website, is dry cleaning. And there's so much talk about this. This show is not going to be long enough. We might have to have you on again. You know, I think about chemicals that you might put in your clothes for dry cleaning, but they talk about the people that are using the chemicals day in and day out. So there's so many different groups that can be really affected by this.
Reporting on that, so it's something that we're aware of, and we're trying to help the companies. We're not trying to put them out of business. We're trying to help them find something that's going to keep them, you know, safe, as well as for their customers to find something that's still going to be effective. And that's the key thing. Who cares if it's green if it doesn't work? And that's what we've been doing, is trying to show people that green does work. You just have to find the right type of product for their application that you're looking to do. So.
Yeah, which is another point. The green chemistry approach, which you talk about, TURI talks about on the website. It identifies 3 main points, which is this sort of, I want you to sort of elaborate on it if you can. I have them written down here, but the basis of the cleaning laboratory.
Read the labels, and that's the main thing. If you look at some of the products that are out there, and some of them say it's all natural and doesn't tell you what's in it, you're going to question, well, what's in there? Why aren't you telling me? Some people say it's because, you know, trade secrets and things like that, but you know what? You can give general names of what's in there, and people will say, all right, I know 6 of the ingredients that are in there, you know, I can make a decision from there if I want to use it or not. And that's the important thing, is the information that companies are willing to provide you will help you to make a better decision as to who you would want to use for a product.
And it seems like the words natural, and those are more and more. You've been doing this for 18 years, you were mentioning. So have you seen a trend in changes in terms of marketing cleaning products, and how people may be misled into thinking they're buying something
it's one of those things that we try to educate people as to. You can't just base it on the name. There are some names that are out there that say it's, you know, all natural, it's super green and super this, and it's, you know, it's, you got to actually look at the ingredients. And we've seen a lot of companies start to make a better effort to actually be green and, you know, call themselves green and move to green. And one way you can do that as a consumer is there's third-party certifications that these companies can go through. What that entails is they submit their paperwork as to their formulations, their health and safety of these products, to a body who goes through, and they have toxicologists and chemists, and they review the materials and say, all right, we think that this meets our criteria that we've set out to be considered a green product. So that's half of what they need to do. The other half is, does it work? And so they have to have independent verification for these products if they work or not. And so that's where we come in. We've been working with Green Seal, EPA's Design for the Environment, which has changed their name to Safer Choice Program. But both of those organizations have similar criteria for health and safety, but they all have the same, it has to work part of it.
Would I have seen a Safer Choice label on
I'm not sure if
no, I feel like I've seen Safer Choice someplace.
They've actually just switched from Design for the Environment to Safer Choice in the past year. So you may have, but they're switching their logos over to kind of better describe what their process is about. Because Design for the Environment doesn't necessarily mean as much to someone as the word Safer Choice, and that type of thing. So they've done a really good job of bringing their recognition program in line with the other ones that are out there too. I mean, they do a good job of identifying safer alternatives. And Green Seal has been around for 25 years, I think, something like that. So yeah, they've been around for a while, and so they're the largest, biggest name that's out there. And you'll see on some of these bottles, you see Good Housekeeping Seal and things like that. Those are the ones you can do research about those third-party organizations and say, are they reputable, or is it just something that the company made up themselves? And so it's good to find out someone who's, you know, gone outside of their own walls and said, tell people that this is safe and green. You know, we think it is, but, you know, verify it for us.
That third-party testing.
So that,
because you can put a seal on anything.
Well, they've actually done
reputable.
They've actually done a good job of trying to dial back what people can make for claims on bottles.
Okay.
The consumer products and things like that, basically saying you can't say this unless you have this. There are rules and regulations now that they've come up with to say you just can't slap it on there and say it's green, it's safe, and go from there. You know, you have to have claims, you have to back it up. So that's where the third-party certifications come in, and the performance testing and things like that we help out with to help say that yes, this has been approved or verified by somebody other than the company. So you can feel a little more comfortable about what you're looking for in the marketplace. And so.
Okay, and that third-party testing is probably, that's really important because that's what tells the consumer how legitimate the product is. And when we talk about the green chemistry, the three that I think consumers would appreciate most is that the products must be more environmentally benign than the alternatives. So that's another one. We're talking about the consumer, we're talking about the employees that are working with this product day in and day out. But also the environment and how it's affecting the environment. That must be more economically viable than alternatives. So another question I think consumers have is the cost of something that might be a safer alternative. And it must functionally outperform the alternatives. So
I kind of touched on all those except for the cost, because that's one of the things I always ignore or forget about is the cost. But 10, 15 years ago when the green products were coming out, they were more expensive because they were new and not everybody was using them. Today, you'd be hard-pressed to find a green product that doesn't cost similar to, the traditional cleaning products that are out there. They've done very well in sticking their foot in the door, keeping it in the door, and now they're the mainstay. When you have major companies who have gone from their traditional product lines, they've developed their own green lines, you know that this isn't going away, that people are realizing that this is what they want. They're making a green product line. So they're trying to they recognize what's going on out there, and they're basically saying, yeah, we get it. We'll start making some that way as well. And a lot of these bigger companies are putting out more information about their product lines, the ingredients and things like that. And so they're recognizing that they need to switch to a greener product lines.
And some of when you talked about effectiveness and some of the projects that you're working on in the lab, I noticed in one of the videos you're actually taking surfaces of what would be typically cleaned, and you actually have different ways of testing the effectiveness of a cleaning product and how much soil or dirt might be left on that particular
I was
surface.
actually at Home Depot this morning picking up carpet to take back to work tomorrow to do some carpet staining and carpet cleaning. So we use real materials. We use ceramic tiles that you have on your floor, the vinyl composite tiles, wood surfaces, glass, metal, you name the surface. We probably have some of it in the lab. If not, we'll go find it and we'll play around with it. But we definitely, what has benefited what we do to make it real for the people that are out there is we're doing real tests for real types of soils and real surfaces. Whereas if you look at the standardized methodologies that have been developed by organizations and they say use this, this, and that, that's great if you want to compare product to product, but it doesn't really touch on what's actually going on in the real world. It's not a natural soil, we'll call it. Some of the soils we look at, we'll take food ingredients and we'll mix them together, and so we'll take butter and flour, and it sounds like we're making a cake, and sometimes it smells like we're making a cake, but we burn it onto the surface, we age it, make it really challenging to remove, and then we're testing them out. So we definitely make it a real world experience for what we're doing with these students.
Now, in the lab, you're testing effectiveness. Are you testing safety too, or
we don't have the infrastructure to test safety. We do some basics on evaluating a material safety data sheet or the product information on the bottles, and we can do a review using various skills that we have, various tools to do an EH&S, environmental health and safety comparison. So we'll do a paper analysis of the ingredients that are there. We won't actually take them and say, all right, let's run this to see what happens when you put it on your skin. Does it cause irritation? We can analyze the results that people have already done for those types of tests and say, yeah, this is this level, and this one's this level, and this one's stay away from. Those are the types of things we can do. We can do the evaluations. Like I said, call in with an ingredient and say, what is this gonna do to me? Those are the types of things we can answer, but we don't necessarily have the infrastructure to test those in the lab to say, this one will cause this one will cause that.
Okay, but we have a lot of information about the dangers of some of these ingredients and the safety of some of these ingredients,
That's the key point right there. Is not all the chemicals that are being used in the world we know enough about.
Yeah.
There's only a handful. Well, I say a handful, but it's a big handful of products that are out there the chemicals that we know what will cause health and safety. Unfortunately, it's usually the ones that have been around for 20, 30, 40 years that have started to do damage to people, and it's already too late. So there has been a movement basically to say before these products can be used, we should change the way they're assessed before they go out in the marketplace. With the third-party certifications with Green Seal and EPA's Design for the Environment, they kind of require some form of testing of their product or their ingredients that are in there to show that they're safer. So they just can't say, I have this new product that nobody knows anything about, but it works great. Throw it in the product and call it done and say, we're all set. There is some level of what you have to determine if it's safe or not before they can start using it. And that's what we're trying to push everybody to, is to actually make that decision before. Just because you have it doesn't mean you should use it. You should determine if it's safe or not, or safer is what I always like to say. Nothing's ever going to be safe, but you want to find something that's going to be safer for you to be using. So it's a step in the right direction, so that you don't have any exposure or hazards to worry about. It's lessened that exposure potential.
So there can be ingredients in some of the cleaning products that we have that we don't have true safety studies on to determine long-term
Right,
effects.
there may not be as much information that you would like to have on some of the ingredients in these products. There's no real restriction as to what they could use. But like I said, if you go with a third-party certifier, they have set amount of criteria saying there's a list of chemicals that they know something about because they've been around for 15, 20 years, and say, don't use these. But they're also trying to make the effort of saying, just because I said don't use these, everything else that's not on the list isn't necessarily okay. That's why they're asking for as much information as available from it. And if there isn't information available from it, they're less likely to give them that certification because of that restriction and the knowledge of what they know about the product. So they're trying to help force the companies to do that product, the EH&S comparisons before they go to market with them.
So a consumer, they say it slowly, the EH&S, is that something they can go online and look up?
Yeah, what you can do is if you have a chemical name, the environmental health and safety.
Environmental health and safety. So they could Google that?
Well, it's usually not. What you can do is I would take the name from the MSDS material safety data sheet or a bottle. You can say, all right, I'll plug that into Google, do a search, and see what comes up. You can find, if you don't have a material safety data sheet but you have the name, you may be able to find a safety data sheet describing what the health hazards are of that product. You can also go,
So each product has a safety data sheet attached to it?
Well, they may not necessarily have them with them when you buy them as a consumer, but you can
somewhere.
Usually what they've been trying to have companies do is either provide it on the bottle, some of the information, or provide a linked website address on the bottle that you can go to and find out more about the ingredients. And that's what some of the larger corporations have started to do, is because they have the resources to be able to do it. Is they go to this site here, find our product information there, and basically you can go through and find out what's in the products and why. I know, I think is it Clorox or Lysol or Procter & Gamble, they actually have a pretty good site where they say, here's the product, here's the ingredients, this is what it's in there for. So you know why it's in there and what it's supposed to be doing, and then you can kind of do more research to see, are there any health effects with it. And more often than not, you'll find something that will say, avoid contact with the eyes, don't drink this, don't bathe in it, those types of the common sense type of things. But you'd be surprised how many people, it's green, they'll spray it in their mouth to show you that it's green. It's like, don't do that. And that's how we do a lot of our testing, is the head-to-head comparison. Not just saying it removed 80% of the soil, it's good. You could say it removed more than this product, or it removed slightly less than this one here, but it cost a little bit less and it's safer. So that's that kind of trade-off. If you have to clean a little bit longer using something that's greener, how many people would make that switch? That's kind of what we don't say. Didn't make this number. It's never use it.
Yeah.
It's like, here it is. This is how it compares. You decide if it's worth it to you to make the switch to it. So that's what we try to make those people aware of what they can do for their decision. Identify. We do a lot of work with organizations that are trying to do the do-it-yourself recipes. The baking sodas, the vinegars.
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah. So most people, I think about that, and I ran into a patient at the grocery store the other day, and I was mentioning to her that we were having you on, and she said, I use the vinegar for everything cleaning, and I noticed a sheet that you had sent me. It says on the top, just because it's a do-it-yourself ingredient does not mean it's safe. So what about that? What if people want to use just the vinegar for cleaning or...
Right. I mean, it goes back to learning what you're dealing with, what you're handling. Granted, you've had vinegar in your house all your life, or baking soda, and you eat it all the time, and all the foods that you have and everything like that, but there are certain applications that you shouldn't do with it, and certain things you shouldn't mix it with. Those are the things that people should learn about, not mixing things that shouldn't be mixed together. I mean, there's always a risk if you're doing it yourself. You could do something totally wrong and mix two things together. It could cause, bad reaction or create some chemicals that are worse than the two separate, and you mix them together, they can become worse. But more often than not, the do-it-yourself recipe ingredients are safer than the store-bought products, but it's just a matter of knowing what applications you should be using them for and how they should be used. I mean, vinegar you can use a lot of, but it has a strong odor, so people may not necessarily like it. I mean, it's good at doing some disinfection work. So it's killing things, so it's obviously not completely safe to everything. So that's one of those things we just don't want people running out there and say, I'm going to make this myself, and just start mixing things together and say, this is good and I'm going to go with it. There are some concerns you should be aware of. I mean, the powders and dusts and things like that, you get certain concentrations can explode. I think there was a couple of years ago, there was an explosion at a bakery because the flour levels were too high, and it basically, it's flour, but in the right or the wrong mixtures and concentrations, you can have serious consequences that happen with them. So it's important to know what you should and shouldn't do. If you always go on the rule of thumb, if you're opening a window, have fresh air to come through. If you accidentally do something wrong, you're less likely to be passed out in the bathroom because it's a small enclosed room. And turn the vent on.
Yes.
If there's no window, turn your vent on. Open your door.
Open your doors. That's a big one. I think about bathrooms are usually more enclosed areas.
Yep.
Usually when we're cleaning our bathrooms, we're using very powerful, very smelly, very toxic cleaners. I think that would be a really dangerous place to set up.
I mean, there are products that are out there that can lessen. I know that we used, in my house, we actually use one of the products from Clorox, the Greenworks bathroom, the toilet bowl cleaners. They have it still has an acid in it, but it's not hydrochloric acid, which is very, very dangerous for people to be using, and so it's a safer alternative. It's still not necessarily the best, but it's a step in the right direction to make things a little bit safer for you when you're using them.
Hydrochloric acid, which is in a lot of bathroom cleaning products, and that is dangerous for inhaling. It'll actually burn through your skin, it concentrated levels, and it's a very, very powerful solvent, acid. It'll eat through a lot of things. I mean, that's why you're using it in the toilet, because it goes through and it dissolves the soap scum, the calcium deposits, the mineral deposits on the toilet bowl. But you can find that even citric acid, which is more like an orange juice type of thing, is as effective, give it a little bit more time, as hydrochloric acid, and it's a lot safer for you. Time, which is what you're talking about. If you're willing to spend that few extra minutes, you can use an effective. Right, if you plan your cleaning process, like I said before, if you go back through your process and say, you know what, I usually have come in and I'll squirt the toilet bowl and I'll clean it right away. Well, if you squirt it on there, walk away and clean the sink, clean the bathtub, and then come back to it, it had more time to sit there and work on the spots, and then you can scrub it down, and then you're done. So it's not necessarily increasing your overall time to clean the bathroom, it's just how you're cleaning it to maximize the effectiveness of your alternatives by modifying your process to find safer ways to use better chemicals to do the cleaning process. I wanted to ask you a question about, which is a question I've had for years and years and years. And so I'm glad you're here so I can ask you this. We see a lot of commercials that will, advertise a certain product that talks about will kill a certain percentage of whatever's on your kitchen counter and continues to kill whatever's on that counter for 24 hours. So that, and for a lot of people, might be a great thing. For me, that's a huge red flag that I definitely don't want that product. And it's clever marketing, especially to, I think, parents who want their, we're told as parents, clean, 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 kill the germs, keep your kids safe. Yep. I think just the other day, and I never watch the news, but I happened to be in a store that had the news on. There was a new study out which showed people who use a lot of bleach in their houses they've actually seen kids have more chronic respiratory illnesses, and they think they're linking it to people who use a lot of bleach. Well, the chemicals in the bleach, they are asthma triggers or asthma-inducing type of chemicals. So that's one of those things that just because you've used it for years doesn't necessarily mean it's good. Going back to your question or your comment about, apply it to the surface, it kills, it kills, it kills, it kills. You're right, it kills, it's a red flag. You use it properly and effectively, you can use them. But the one thing that we're trying to teach people about the disinfection side of things is that you can't disinfect a dirty surface. So if you see an all-in-one, all-purpose cleaner that cleans and disinfects, well, it's just cleaning, or then it's just disinfecting. Because if you use it as a cleaner and disinfectant, you're really not disinfecting anything, because the soils and the bacteria are basically, with the dirty surfaces, they can hide under the soils, and the cleaning chemicals
can't necessarily get to them, and if they can get to them, the soils might deactivate the active ingredients in the disinfectants, and so you're just basically putting on more chemicals that aren't doing anything for you. So it's always good to go through with a general all-purpose cleaner, clean the surfaces, and if you're still concerned about disinfecting, then you would use a disinfectant that's not a cleaning product, just a disinfectant. Like you have the 7th generation wipes here. Has a thymol in it. It's a natural essential oil that does a lot of killing of bacteria. It's not a very good cleaner. It says on here 99.99% removal of germs. Okay, most biological people say don't use the word germs. Microbiological.
I'm with you.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
It's one of those things. There's a lot of good bacteria that are on our skin.
We wouldn't live without bacteria.
And if you're using
I get it.
these disinfecting chemicals, they don't know the difference. They just see something that it basically breaks them down and it kills them off.
Yeah.
So that's something we've done with my son, who's 5 now, and he's in there, and you can hear him singing away, washing his hands, and he's like, okay, so he knows what he's doing. So
and
it's one of
what's
those
the long-term health effects of those added chemicals?
right, and so they can cause, besides taking away the good bacteria from your skin, they also can dry out your skin and things like that. So it's the cracking, dry skin, and the dermatitis, all things that can build up if you do too much of anything. I mean, if you wash your hands even with regular soap for too long, you're gonna have dry, cracked skin. So it's not always good to wash all the time, and there are times that you can't get away from the need for doing disinfecting. But again, you clean the surface. So like if you're dealing with raw chicken or meats in the kitchen, clean it with hot soapy water and then rinse it and then apply your disinfectant and then read the instructions. Make sure you're following what they say. Most people don't realize that they claim for this to work to this level of log reduction, you have to let it sit for 10 to 15 minutes wet on the surface. I don't know about you, but nobody lets anything sit for 10 to 15 minutes wet on the surface. It's on, it's off. Yeah. And you've done nothing but use chemicals to the inappropriate way that we're doing, which then can help lead to microbial resistant bacteria and things like that. And disinfectant, you know what I'm saying? It's basically creating superbugs. And so if you're doing it wrong, you're just abusing the chemicals and you're not doing things the right way. So if you go through and read these and see what they say, then you realize, oh my God, I actually have to let this sit that long. There are products that are out there. Yeah, this one does say 99.9%. This one says, so this you can see here, this one has 3 log reduction.
Yeah, this says kills 99.9% of viruses and bacteria.
Yeah, and this one says kills 99.99 of all germs botanically.
Yeah.
So they're trying to say they're doing it naturally. They're using, like I said, I think it's thymol, which originally when we were set out to do the testing that we're doing, we were only looking at cleaning side of things, and we had a lot of questions from people. Well, what about disinfections? What about this? What about doing this? And it's like, I'm not a biologist. I don't claim to be one. I never want to be one. But we've partnered with someone on campus at UMass Lowell she is a microbiologist, and she was looking to do some new research projects, and she partners up with us, and she's testing out these greener, safer disinfectant chemicals, the essential oils, their hydrogen peroxides, steam disinfection, and testing these out to see how well they work. What we're set out to do is to not do it the right way. We want to do it the wrong way and see how effective they are, and show you which ones give you more room for error in your application or your process on how you're doing it. And so the chemistry ones, you have to pretty closely follow what they're saying to do, otherwise it won't work to the level that you need it to be safe.
So in your lab, are you testing the residues that I had mentioned before? In other words,
you mean the longevity of them?
When something says, I know I've seen those commercials where they'll say
keeps on killing
for 24 hours.
That's one of those things that's on our list that we want to be able to do. Is just we have so many other projects going on with the basics right now. Is that we're still doing that, but that's something that we're interested in learning about as well. And that's the cleaning of the dirty surface. We keep talking about it. We haven't actually been able to get to that point where we're making a soil that's dirty with bacteria in it on the surface, cleaning and then disinfecting and all at once to show these claims. But that's one of those things that's on our list of things that we're trying to get to. If we can just clone more students and more professors to want to work on this to be able to get this stuff done, we have so much going on. Like I said, for the 20 students that we have, we still have more work that we can't get to just because only so much room in the lab and so much time we have available with them. So
I think about, let's say you're using a product that claims to continue killing whatever on a kitchen counter surface, and then you have small children who run their hands along the counter.
Right, they're removing that, and it's now on them.
Putting their food on the counter and then picking it up. Right. All of that is now ingested.
Well, that's that thing, that the educational part of things. You have to learn what you're working with and what you think you want to do with it, and then decide, do I want to do that? And should I do that? I mean, if you were to live by yourself and you want it on the surface because you want to disinfect it, well, you know, that's probably something you can get away with because you know it's there. You know not to put your food directly on it or wipe it with your hand and stick it in your mouth. Tell that to a 4-year-old. Yeah. Tell that to a 5-year-old with their fingers up their nose and in their ears, and it's like, what? Stop. Yeah. So no, it's one of those things you have to be aware of what's going on and how it's being used to make sure that you're doing things safely. I mean, that's all you really can do is you just can't. Nothing's ever going to be safe. There's always going to be something wrong with something. As long as you know what those risks are, you can make an educated decision about it. Then you're in a better place to deal with what your options are. Yes,
which is, I think, one of the great things I liked about TURI is because there's so much education involved in it. So you're doing things in the lab, but then you have all of these branches that are getting the message out there to help people understand that they have choices and why the choices are important to make. So when we're looking at some of these as a consumer, and we're going to a store to get something, what are some keywords that we need to look for? I know they can make things look very nice with colors and in certain words, but are there certain words that we can look at? I think of biodegradable is a word I see. Botanically is another one on this product. Yep. What are words that might be triggers to help a consumer say that might be a product that is one? Here's it uses the word green in it. So what can we look for?
Well, some of the things that you can look for, like you said, those things are nice. Like it says biodegradable, but you really want to know how quickly does it biodegrade. Just because it's biodegradable, it could take thousands of years to biodegrade. Okay. You want something that's going to be biodegradable in 3 to 5 days or something like that, or a week. Yeah. You want a time frame associated with those types of things. You may not find that on the bottle, but going to their website and doing research about the product, they may have that information available for you to say how quickly it will break down.
Is something that biodegrades sooner rather than, in hundreds of years or whatever,
right.
Would that be safer?
Yes.
Something that biodegrades in a short amount of time?
Right, you want it to be breaking back down into its core elements quicker as opposed to sitting around. You think of nuclear fuel that's around for millions, thousands of years. It doesn't go anywhere and it's decaying and it's putting things out. But these ones are a little bit more realistic. If something that's takes 20 to 30 days to biodegrade versus something that's 5 to 7 days, it's a little bit better for that one to go with that one. Some of them.
Is there a way we can figure that out as consumers?
Other than looking at a safety data sheet or doing some research.
Would you have the information?
We might be able to find that information for you because we have been doing it longer than most consumers would be looking at it. We can say, all right, what's the product name? We'll look up the MSDS. We'll say, all right, what's in it? We'll look for that information ourselves and then let you know what they are. But you can probably find them on a safety data sheet or a website about chemicals and safety and things like that. Another phrase that usually jumps out is non-toxic.
Non-toxic.
That's a good one to look for.
So that's the one that you would be safer?
Because there are restrictions as to what they can put on their labels and actually get away with, what they're saying. And they can't just say this is all natural, all safe with no justification and no verification for it. So if they've gone through, this one here has gone through the Good Housekeeping seal of approval. Most people have heard that phrase, that organization, Good Housekeeping. Yeah. So it's one of those things. Okay, so someone else has looked at this and they say it's the claims match up, non-toxic, biodegradable, great. The one thing that concerns me about this product is that it says concentrated right on it. But how many people realize that they're supposed to dilute this before using it because they put a spray bottle right on it? It says on the back, it says 1-to-1 dilution for heavy duty, 1-to-10 dilution for general purpose, and 1-to-30. So for light cleaning, and it's so someone sees this bottle and says, all right, here's my all-purpose cleaner. That's 100% straight right on the surface. It's not being used as intended. Yeah. So look for, it's great when you can buy a concentrated product that you have the means of the ability to dilute it yourself, which you have your own one right here where you have a bottle and a spray, you've poured in the chemicals, you've diluted it with water, and your concentration is at the one that they say this is what it's supposed to be used for. what this does is it exposes you to higher levels of the active ingredients in this product that you shouldn't be, because they say, if you read the products, that they say safe when used as directed.
Yeah, yeah.
If you see that phrase, that's a trigger to say, why do I have to be safe? No matter how I use it, it should just be safe, period.
Yeah.
This is one of those ones that may say, safe if used as directed, but no one's probably using it that way because it says concentrated.
Because it comes right in a ready-to-go bottle.
Now, this one here, it says power and free multi-purpose cleaner with hydrogen peroxide.
Ooh, multi-purpose, is that the thing you're talking about with cleaning and
Right.
disinfecting?
Right, and so it has
okay.
right in here, it says kills 99.9 of viruses and bacteria.
Yeah.
That's one of those times where you say, yeah, you know what, I don't necessarily want all-purpose cleaner and a disinfectant in one.
Okay.
Hydrogen peroxide does a good job of cleaning things. It's a very aggressive cleaner as well, but you can't do both at the same time.
Okay.
So you have to decide as a consumer, if I buy this, how am I going to be using it? Am I thinking that I'm spraying once and I'm done?
Yeah.
Because then you're not using it as directed.
Okay.
So it's important to realize that they might be able to work for both degreasing, for cleaning and disinfecting, but not at the same time.
Okay.
This one here says a foamer for the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like it also has a disinfecting chemical in there as well. It has the traditional components of bleach.
Bleach.
Right. So, again, bleach is not a very good cleaner. It's a good disinfecting chemical, but it's not designed for cleaning.
Yeah.
So this may be a good cleaner without the disinfecting chemical in it, but you add it in there, then you're adding a chemical that goes into the process that isn't being used or anything in that design process at that time. So if you want, then again, if you think about a bathroom, if you're using this in the bathtub, fine, you probably spray it on there and clean it, but does it really need to be disinfected?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe, depending if you how messy you are or how dirty you are, you might, but
yeah.
It's one of those things. It's the applications that you're using. It says foaming bleach action, scrub less, but bleach doesn't do any cleaning. What it does is it may remove some of the stains that are there, but if they have mixed messages on this bottle saying it's for bathroom cleaner, it's disinfecting, and it's also bleaches out stains. I mean, so it's like, what is it really designed to be doing? Why do we have the bleach? Bleach is an asthma trigger, so if you're using it and you spray it, there's going to be back spray, overspray, extra spray. It's all going to be there. And what are you going to do?
Breathing
it in,
yeah.
And then you're going to have some issues with that. So
doing it in a closed bathroom usually. A
shower stall or something like that. You're going to have that concentrated mist that's there that you're breathing in, and that's going to cause some problems for you for breathing. So a product like this, if you were to make it more of they say it's a foaming one, if you make it more of like a gel or something like that, and you apply it to a cloth and then wipe the surface, is it as bad for you for the asthma side of things? Probably not, because you're not having the mist that you're breathing in right away. It's harder for you to get the exposure to the chemicals and the way it'll affect you if it's in a different form. So, and this one here is the disinfecting wipes. They do a pretty good job of saying, this isn't necessarily a cleaning product. This says right on it, just disinfecting wipes. Although it does say clean well on the side of it, but if you read through more about what's in there, it'll tell you what it's talking about. But it shows you some applications that you can use it. It says in the kitchen, children's toys, garbage cans, bathroom, and doorknobs. Now the trick with disinfecting is you don't necessarily have to disinfect everything that you think you have to.
We're told we have to.
Right.
Right.
They'll tell you disinfect everything.
Yeah.
And they'll tell you just disinfect the certain areas after you've done cleaning. So that's the message that they're providing. And this product here with the hydrogen peroxide, that one is a little bit trickier because it can be used for cleaning as well as eventually disinfecting. But my point is about the disinfection of what surfaces you have to decide what would be an area that you would want to do disinfection for. We call them high touch, high risk. Doorknobs, light switches are high touch, high risk. Keyboards are another one. The floor, not so much. Not too many people will go down and touch the floor and then do something else afterwards and say, well, why do you have to disinfect the floor? You don't. Like I said, do you have to disinfect the bathroom? Maybe the toilet area, but as soon as you use it again, it's no longer disinfected. It's dirty again.
Yeah.
A shower, maybe, depending on if you have mold growing in and things like that. You need to kill off things, clean it, disinfect it, get rid of what's there, and then maintain. And so there's a whole bunch of areas that people, going back to the kitchen. Do you have to clean your countertops every time with a disinfectant chemical? Probably not. If you're dealing with raw meats, good idea. Clean first and then disinfect. But on daily, weekly cleaning, things like that, when you're going through and you're spraying your all-purpose cleaner on the surface and you're wiping it down just because it looked a little, had smudges here, smudges there, you don't need to disinfect that because, a lot of bacteria won't last that long without a food source. You clean that surface, and even if the bacteria is there, they're not going to survive without something to consume to maintain their life. So if you remove the milk, the cheese, the bread,
just a cleaner.
Just wipe it up, clean it off, put it into the trash, it's gone, there's food source is gone. Even if you didn't get all the bacteria, say you remove 99.9% of the bacteria, there's still some there, but they're not going to last because there's no food source for them. So that removal of that, maintaining good levels of cleanliness is key. You don't need to do a lot of disinfecting. That's one of the things that another thing that we're trying to teach people is you don't always have to disinfect.
Yeah.
So if you're in a hospital setting, obviously there's different ways that they do their disinfecting, but they do a lot of things inadequately, using the wrong type of process and things like that, where they're going in and they're just spraying, they're disinfecting without having cleaned anything, and so they don't necessarily get everything, and that kind of leads to the superbugs and the resistance to antibacterial, antimicrobial, and all those things, and it's just one of those things that just keeps building up. You do a thorough cleaning of things and then come through and disinfect. We're working with a couple facilities where they're introducing high temperature steam. Basically, we have found that you can basically use this type of system and do it wrong and still get 99.999, the 5-log reduction that people are shooting for in disinfection in 30 seconds.
Steam.
And just hot steam on the surface, you're talking in 30 seconds, whereas the other ones are 10 minutes. Or even if it's 5 minutes, if you're doing this and going over the surface, 30 seconds, this is all disinfected, whereas you put this on, you got to make sure it's wet for another 5-10 minutes. Someone comes by and touches it, it start back over. Or if it dries out before it finishes, it's not being used the way it's supposed to be designed.
And then they have chemicals on their hands.
They have the residue left behind, and they're walking around and they're transferring things around. So and they're consuming it and they're exposing themselves. So there are ways that you can, it's systematic changes in how people do and view cleaning and disinfection. We always try to make sure we separate the two of them. It's cleaning, then disinfecting.
Okay.
So it's not together. So like this one here, this says disinfecting right up front. I always say if you're going to put it on the bottle, at least say cleaning and disinfecting as versus the other way around.
Yeah.
Because at least then you're thinking, well, I got to clean, and then it's disinfecting. But I refuse to buy anything that's the all-in-ones just because they know they're not being used the right way. And it was something that my wife and I talked about, and she says, all right, fine, we'll go with that, and it's fine with me, whatever you say. But then, of course, we go clean the house, and she says I do a horrible job cleaning. So I said, fine, you know what? You do the cleaning, you just use these, and you can clean. But it's one of those things that's kind of a running joke in our house, is that she says I'm horrible, but she doesn't realize that I'm doing it wrong on purpose, so I don't have to clean. So. It's on tape now, so
now she'll know.
Now she'll know.
So I mean, there's so many different aspects of this cleaning. We talked about the dry cleaning. I mean, it can go to laundry. It can go, like I talked about, the dishwasher. So there's really so many areas that I don't think people even realize how much of this affects their daily lives. And there was one sheet that you gave me where you actually mentioned, and I don't have it in me, just the generalized health effects from traditional cleaning products. And this is a small list, I think, but some of the biggies: asthma and breathing problems, allergies, skin problems, neurologic problems, conception problems, pregnancy problems, all linked to
various cleaning products and their
various
applications.
Cleaning ingredients. And another question I had for you is the pH, looking to see if something plant-based versus petroleum-based. I see that a lot on labels.
Yep.
These are plant-based materials.
What that does, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's safer or more effective. It just means it's more sustainable, meaning petroleum-based ones are from oil, which we all know we're going to run out of sometime, whereas the plant-based ones are something that you can regrow and continue on down the road. What I try to educate people about is just because it says it's plant-based doesn't necessarily mean it's the best option. You want something that's going to be not replacing a food stock, But say some of these will be using corn to make some of their ingredients from it.
Yeah.
Well, is that corn taken away from people who need food? Or is it going to be made from something that's the corn stalks versus the corn itself? So is it a waste grown product, you know, a byproduct of the food that we eat? We don't want to replace the chemicals that we use for cleaning with the foods that we want to be eating, because we need food. And so it's using the waste products from these plant-based materials. There's a lot of things that you can make from the different parts that you don't use for food to help make some of these safer products. And that's where I'm basically trying to tell people is read what they're putting in there, where it comes from. Is it sustainable? Is it going to displace the food flow or anything like that? So that's something to be concerned about as well. Is just because it's plant-based doesn't necessarily it comes without issues or risks. It's again just learning what's involved with their process, where it comes from, and what they're using to make them. If I had to choose between a petroleum-based one and a plant-based one, I'm going to go with the plant-based one because I know that they're trying to do the right thing from sustainable things, and then I'll do a little more research from there, decide, well, what part of the plant are they using? What plants are they using? If it's, grass that grows in the middle of the highway that no one's using for anything, great. Mow it down, make it into whatever you need to use it for, and go from there. But if it's something you need to use to feed someone or to clean my counter, please use it to feed someone as opposed to cleaning my counter. So that's my educated decision that I try to make with what's out there for plant-based products as well. So it's just one of those things you're going to have to decide what's important to you and what does it mean to you if you're going to go with plant-based.
Does TURI have a resource list on their website for, I know you said they don't recommend certain name brand products per se, but things to look for as well? I know we talked about some of the things that we want to sort of avoid when we're just looking at labels.
I don't know if we have a list, but I know there are organizations that are out there that have gone through and say these are some of the ingredients of concern. These are the ingredients that we think are safer. There are resources. This one's called Environmental Working Group. Yes. If you go to their website, they have a lot of information. Consumer Good Housekeeping is another place you can go. Consumer Products is another place. EPA. EWG actually, the Environmental Working Group actually gives numbers, yes? Yes, they do. They go through and they rank products based on the information that companies provide to them. They'll give them a score based on that. The more information that they provide, the more likely that their scores are going to be better as long as the ingredients are safer. If you list everything that's in it, doesn't mean that they're going to get a good score. Just if something's not safe, it's not safe. But they have gone through and they've tried to assess products. And what they do when they come across a product that doesn't have anything listed, they give them a lower score saying there's no information available. You use this at your own risk because we don't know what's in it or how it's being used. But another resource that you can use, it's more for someone who's looking to formulate or make something, but it's through EPA and Green Blue as an organization. It's called Clean Ingredients, all one word, Clean Ingredients. Clean Ingredients, not clean ingredients. Right, cleaningredients.org. On there, basically is a listing of different chemicals that have gone through health and safety profiles and said this is what we think that these ones are safer for people to be using. I think though that one maybe you have to pay to use just because they want the formulators to be paying them to help fund research to evaluate these products and see if they're safe or not. And so if you have a question and you want to know something about it, we have access to Clean Ingredients at the lab. So if you had a question and you couldn't find it anywhere else, you could let us know and we can see if that would be one of the resources that we would use to see if we know anything about it, if it's safer or not. Okay. And the resources to find, let's say if you want to put a concoction together, vinegar, your typical basic ingredients. We have listed on there's a DIY section of the TURI lab. You go TURIorg/laboratory and you can just do a search or DIY cleaning. Yeah. We've gone through and what we tried to do is we didn't come up with our own DIYs. We basically scoured the internet, different books that are out there and find all this do-it-yourself recipes and say, all right, let's put them through the test. Let's see how well they work. So we will get all the ingredients, we'll make them up, we'll test them in the laboratory setting, what we test against these products here and see how they stack up. And you're testing effectiveness. We're looking at effectiveness, but we also have provided some of the basic health and safety. I think it's the sheet that I gave you had some of those ingredients on there and say just because it's DIY, it doesn't mean it's safe.
You mentioned things: hydrogen peroxide, essential oil, vinegar. All these things pop out. Murphy's oil soap is a big one. I don't know if I can say that, but yeah. So this is.
So if you read them closely, there isn't really a lot wrong with them. But it's like I said, you can't just assume that it's safe just because it says it's natural, it's this, or you make it yourself. There are some hazards associated with it. For the essential oils, most people may not necessarily affect them, but if you have asthma and things like that, you're gonna recognize that the essential oils are there and you're breathing them in, and they're gonna irritate and cause problems. So it's knowing what you're dealing with, how much of that you should be using, and what applications you can use them in will definitely help you make a better decision and help keep you safe with what you're doing for cleaning. I mean, cleaning's everywhere. I mean, everything you do, that's why people in the industry. Basically, when we're working with the industrial side of things, people saying, well, isn't this going to go away when the industry stops working and isn't around in Massachusetts? It's like, it doesn't have to be industry. It's everywhere. You clean the building that you're making the parts that you're cleaning parts in. So there's a couple of fields of cleaning that they don't even think about, the maintenance. The schools, you're cleaning schools all the time.
Yeah.
Hospitals, you're always cleaning. Your house, you're cleaning. You clean your car, you clean your clothes, you clean your dog, you clean your cat.
Yeah.
Cleaning's everywhere. So I mean, it's just one of those things. It's never going to go away. We've been doing it for thousands of years.
You need to be educated in what you're using.
Right.
That was I know quickly, and I know we're running out of time. But even a lot of households have animals now. So how are their cleaning products affecting animals? It's not just the adults in the house. It's not just the children in the house, but it's also the animals too.
Yeah, because they're usually, if they're house pets, they're in the house all the time. And if you may go to work after you clean, or they're stuck inside with the chemicals, and so they're exposed to higher levels. They're smaller beings as well, so less chemicals is going to affect them quicker because they're small, just like it's with kids and their immune systems being not as developed, but they're smaller, they weigh less. So most of these health and safety stuff that you may find are not geared to test on children's sizes. They're on an average adult size. I happen to be an average adult size, 5'10", 150 pounds. That's what they're looking at, saying, if you're exposed to this, this is what is going to happen to you. But if you're 4'1" and you only weigh 65 pounds, that's not the same as someone who's twice your size and weighs a lot more, and it's going to affect them quicker and faster. So
so like a lot of safety studies done out there on a number of things, they're tested on the average adult size. So this reporting is on how it would affect the average adult, not a child, not a small pet, whatever.
Right. So that's one of those things you got to realize. They have to be able to give you something. So that's what they've decided. We'll go in the middle of the road and say, here's this person. This is what it's designed for. Pick a number, pick a weight, pick a size, pick an age. That's it. And then you have to adjust. There are ways you can take those values that they establish and kind of dial them back or dial them up for the size and the age of people. So in addition to young, small children, you're talking old, weaker adults who their immune systems are starting to not work as well, and they're more susceptible. And so that you have to realize who you're dealing with and what you're doing, and it's the same thing. Just know what you're doing and who's being involved, and kind of going from there.
Yeah. If people want to get in touch with TURI, if they have a question, let's say specifically for the lab, or what if there's a group that wants to know a little bit more about how they can invite TURI out to
how to reach
education resource?
You can go to the TURI website and you can email anyone that's on that list, and if it's not the right person, we know where it's supposed to go and we'll direct you in the right direction. If they want to contact me directly and I can pass them off to the right person, don't take it personally. I'm not getting rid of you. Yeah. It's just that there may be something more suited for that question that they're asking. If it's the community grants, I would direct them to Joy O'Nash, who I mentioned that she does the community grants. If you're looking at more research projects, that's two or three other people at the institute that we could direct you to. So it's a good place to start. If you have a name, someone, you just say, hey, who do I need to talk to at TURI, and we can put you in the right direction. Or you can just call the front desk and say, I'm interested in this, and they'll point you in the right direction. Okay. So we're pretty good about sharing the wealth of the knowledge of who works with what. So we're not going to say, oh, this is mine, I can't help you, go away.
Yeah.
No, we're all about helping people learn what they're supposed to be doing and what resources are available, and if we can point them in the right direction, that's what we're there to help out. So.
And that's TURI, TURI.org.
Yep.
So you can go to that website too, which is, as I mentioned, the website, you could stay on that for days and days and days. It's just loaded with information and links to different places. So there's an abundance of information on there. And even a few videos which actually show TURI out in the community teaching, and I want to see what I can do about getting TURI in our school system. They're going to be thrilled that when they hear this on it. But I think this is really, really important, especially with kids. So this is fascinating to me. This is important. I think it's important to adults, kids, older adults, people with pets. It's important for employers who want to keep their employees safe. And this is a really important topic, and I'm thrilled to have had you here.
Yeah, and if you're interested in the grants that they put out, I think the current application is due in June. So if they're thinking about it, maybe too quick of a turnaround to do it this year, but they can start working on it for next year. But if they have an idea and they really want to get going on it, contact Joy, and she can help them figure out what they need to put together and maybe get it in time for June. But it's coming up pretty quick for that, but they do it every year. So if they miss this cycle, it doesn't mean it's gone and lost forever. They can try again.
Put in those applications and see how they can become a part of
And it's also the stuff that I do in the lab and also what Heidi does in the field. That's something that we may be able to start doing even without a grant, just to come through and do a walkthrough and bring somebody in to help work with the custodial staff and see if they're interested. The important thing is, if you're doing any kind of project like that, the people who are doing the cleaning, they have to be bought into the process. They have to say, you know what, I really am interested in this. I want to have say in this. And we always, if they're not bought into it, even if you tell them to do it, they're going to be bringing in their own products and then you doing their own thing. So get them involved early on and say, you know what, this is for you. This is to help make your job easier. We're here to help make it better for you.
Safer and healthier. And
so we value the input of the people doing the work. Just because we think we know what we're doing, we're not always experts in every situation and in every nuance of a facility, and they are. And so that's why it's important to bring them into it and say, you know what?
Work together.
Exactly. Make that team effort to kind of develop it. You just can't tell them, you're switching to this because we said so.
Yeah.
So we're thinking about switching to this. What do you think?
Yeah.
And bringing them into that process and making them feel valued and have a say in what they're actually doing for their work.
Yeah, well, I like that discussion because it definitely takes a community to make changes.
Yep.
So you have to have everyone on board and understand the repercussions of going one way versus the other. And yeah, so that's really important. This was really fascinating. I'm really thrilled to have had you on here. So thank you so much for spending the time with us. We're going to wrap it up, and then our audience gets to ask you questions at the end of our taping. So thank you for that as well. You've been watching Holistic Health with Dr. Kate. We're dedicated to informing and inspiring you to make healthy and whole choices for your family. Thank you for watching.